Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Tuner Thursday starts with a Honda Prelude from G Racer X. This car, a little bit of an interesting choice of vehicle. It's only midway through A-Class when it comes to PI. I assume the guy just worked with the standard engine and this was as high up the PI that he could get it. The car itself has 435 horsepower, 353 torque. Them figures are not too bad, sort of power and torque figures. The weight, a little bit on the heavier side, 2,928 pounds. So, of course, power to weight ratio is not fantastic in the Honda, and it does feel a little bit underpowered, but it's not by a huge amount. It's still hitting, I think it's about 151 by the braking zone for the first corner here, so it's still not terrible when it comes to these straight line speed bits. As you may have noticed, this has been converted to rear-wheel drive, as it slides around quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, 435 horsepower would be quite a lot. You could probably just about get away with it in a front-wheel drive car if you had big enough tyres, but you would get a huge amount of understeer if you tried to put the power down. So yeah, this has been converted to rear-wheel drive. There are some downsides with the handling. It's a bit of a strange car to drive, I'll be honest. It sort of feels as if the front end has been taken from one car and the rear end has been taken from a completely different vehicle, because it has quite a lot of understeer to start with. It is quite understeery through the turns, and then all of a sudden, when you maybe try and put down a little bit too much power or you ask a little bit too much of the car, you will suddenly get huge amounts of oversteer. It's a bit of a funny one to drive in that respect, because you will come up to a corner like this, be hard on the brakes, it'll be understeer, and then you'll go to put the power down and suddenly massive kick of oversteer. It's yeah, a little bit inconsistent in some respects like that. It does make it a little bit of a fiddle to drive around the track as we see it get another big slide. It took a while getting used to with the characteristics. Once you do get the hang of it, it wasn't too bad. There is some decent enough cornering grip, but as I said, it does feel, as we get very sideways, not what you want to be doing, it does feel just that little bit heavy. It's a little bit slower on the acceleration in between the corners, and we've seen that is quite important when it comes to being quick around Long Beach. There aren't that many sort of really long straights, but there are some decent length straights in between corners, so you'll want some good acceleration. You'll want good brakes as well, and the Honda isn't that impressive under brake. It's not the worst car we've had. It's not as scary as the BMW we had last time, that when you went on the brakes it wiggled around, but it doesn't quite get stopped. As I said, it does about 151 miles an hour into the first big braking zone, and you're stopping at the 500 board. Cars that are doing 160, even more than 160, can sometimes be stopping at that board. It's just not quite as impressive under brakes as I would ideally like, and yeah, it's underpowered, basically. Decent enough cornering grip once you've got everything sorted out, but it will take a little bit of time to get used to with the slightly interesting, we'll go with interesting, handling characteristics. Up next from Uber Noob 456, we have got an Eagle Talon, which is, I think it's very much overlooked often when it comes to Forza games. I think the Eagle Talon has been in all of the Forzas. I'm pretty sure I remember having one in the very first Forza game. Was it a Dodge? I can't remember. Is there a Dodge Stealth or something? It's a similar, I don't know. It's essentially a Mitsubishi Eclipse. I'm not quite sure the Eagle Talon is kind of, is it a tweaked version of the Eclipse, or is it just a rebodied one for the American market? Sorry. Yeah, it's a four-wheel drive car, and it's actually got some decent power in this one, 515 horsepower. Torque, not quite so much, 362, but that's, you know, around average, the sort of power and torque figures we have been seeing. Weight is actually pretty light, considering that this is still a four-wheel drive car, 2,680 pounds. That's not bad on the weight front. I'm assuming we're going to have full weight reduction. The car has got racing tyres on it as well, and with a four-wheel drive system, of course, you can put down all of the power pretty much all of the time. There's no problem putting the power down when you come to leave a corner. It's not, we have had a few slidey four-wheel drive cars. This one isn't particularly slidey. It's very well behaved on the most part. Is there understeer? There is a bit. That's likely to happen with a four-wheel drive car, but it is pretty pretty planted. Yes, with this much power, if you get things a little bit wrong, you try and be a bit brave here and there. Will you slide it around? Of course you can. But on the most part, it is pretty well behaved. The first corner here, I guess, is easily flat out around turn 1. You have to have something, you have to have a very peculiar car, it seems, to not be flat out through the first turn here. Yeah, it's easy flat out around there. Again, the brakes on this car weren't massively impressive either. I expected the Eagle Talon to do a little bit better. As I said, it's not too bad on the weight front, but the brakes are nothing special. It's a slight bit quicker than the Prelude. It's faster accelerating, definitely, than the Honda, but the actual sort of straight line speed at the end of the sort of the start-finish straight-ish bit, 156 miles an hour coming into the braking zone. It's a little bit quicker, and it'll definitely accelerate in between the corners quicker than the likes of the Prelude, but it still lacks perhaps a little bit of the straight line speed. It's still not quite as quick as some of the other cars. This is one of those vehicles that, yeah, it's hard to tell where it falls down compared to other stuff. It's decent enough top speed, not quite as amazing as some acceleration. Again, it's pretty good. Not the most amazing acceleration, but it can get out of the corners pretty quickly. Yeah, it's just it's a solid car. It's a solid car to drive. It also dealt with the curbs very, very well. Of all the vehicles I've driven, this has had to be one of the best cars for dealing with the curbs. You could, if you still clonk them very hard, have it up on 2 wheels or put the car a little bit sideways, but I could get away with using a lot more curb with this than I could with anything else I've driven. I'm not sure what they've done to the suspension or what it is about the Eagle Talon, but maybe I just got incredibly lucky with the way I hit the curbs. But you could get away with a lot in this car, which I wasn't expecting particularly from it. We move on to a Mitsubishi Evo 6 next from RS Templar 103. I do quite like the Evo 6. We have had an Evo 6 go round before. This one, though, is a little bit different. It has the turbo rally engine, the 1.6 litre engine with a humongous turbo. A very peculiar engine. This one's the same engine we use in the touring cars, only this one here has got the restrictors taken off. So it produces 497 horsepower, 589 torque. That is an awful lot of torque. That's some of the most torque I think we've had in a car full stop. I'm just having a look at my thing where I've got stuff written down. It is the most torque we've had. It's more than the GT40. I think it's more than the Miura. I can't find the Miura now. It could well be more than the Miura. It's an insane amount of torque in this car. Weight-wise, it's also pretty light, 2,549 pounds. It's lighter than the other Evo that went round as well. The problem is that while the engine, yes, is incredibly torquey, it delivers its power in a very, very weird way. The turbo rally engine delivers all of its power before 6,000 RPM. It will continue to rev till about 8,000, or at least 7,500. But by 6,000 RPM, it's completely run out of puff. So you have to change up gear. Now, this car has quite short gear ratios. You are constantly changing gear. It's just constant change gear, change gear, change gear. Then you come to a corner, you switch all the way down and then all the way back again very, very quickly. If I rev it to 6,000 change gear, it only goes back down to 5,000. So we have a tiny little power window for the car. The gear ratios are too short for this engine. It's just too short on the gear ratios, which makes it a real pain to drive. There's just so much time is spent concentrating and worrying about getting the gearing right so you stay in the power band. It's a bit of a pain to drive. When it does come to the corners, well, I think it's four-wheel drive. There is a lot of torque. It's going to be quick out of the corners. Through the turns itself is a little bit more of a slidey four-wheel drive car, this one. It's not quite as planted as the Eagle Talon. I can't quite get away with running over the curbs as much as I could with the Mitsubishi. It's okay through the turns, it's pretty good through the corners, but the main concern, the main sort of focus with this car is just get everything right with the engine. I must get everything right with this engine and with the gearing of the car. It lacks straight line speed. It really lacks straight line speed. It's about 151 miles an hour in this car, and that's all it's got to give. And those running out of gears in sick. A bit longer gear ratios would be really useful in this car, as it's a real fight. I've never had this problem before with the car. The turbo rally engine is an awkward one to work with. I'm not a huge fan of it particularly. It's a cool sounding engine and everything, but it's just one of these that it's such such a weird engine to work with because of the strange power band. Like, no other engine works like this. Most cars, let's say they rev to 8,000 RPM, much like this engine does. The power, the max power from the engine would be at around the 7,500 RPM mark. And then you can just rev them up. You can just keep revving the thing. You don't really lose that much power once you go from 7.5 to 8,000, so you change up as late as you can and so on. But with this engine, it's just like a whole different driving style to get used to. And yeah, the gear ratios they just don't quite suit the engine in this car. Still though, there is a huge amount of torque in this car, a decent amount of power and lightweight, so acceleration is pretty damn fast when you get it right. Our final vehicle for the day comes from Drakinstiggy, something like that, in a Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, the 87 one of the more modern ones, the Knight Rider car, basically. This one is another very powerful car, 584 horsepower, 585 torque. Again, an awful lot of power, awful lot of torque in this car, only fractionally behind the Turbo Rally engine. In terms of torque, I believe this car has the Hemi engine in it, which would explain the power and the torque. The downsides to all of this, well, it is 3,200 pounds. That is quite a lot of weight. It is four-wheel drive, which means it is quite planted to the road. But again, you're adding on that four-wheel drive system, you're adding to the weight. It has got race tyres. I'm guessing it probably doesn't have race weight. I don't even know if it'll have any weight reduction. To try and keep the PI in A class, I guess they couldn't. They probably had the choice of weight reduction or tyres. Race tyres is probably a good choice to go with when you have this much power and this much torque. But yeah, the car is just a tad on the heavier side. When it comes to the actual cornering though, it is glued to the road. It's very well sorted out through the turns. I may have outbraked myself a little bit on that particular one, but it is very, very planted. For this much power and torque, yes, it's four-wheel drive, but if we're seen with the previous four-wheel drive cars, they will still slide around. This is very much stuck to the road. The back end won't step out on you. There isn't a huge amount of understeer either. It's very, very nice through the turns. Straight line speed is better as well. The fastest car that we have here today, about 157, 158 miles an hour into this first big braking zone, which puts it up there with some of the faster cars when it comes to straight line speed. The downsides to this vehicle is the brakes. They are the main downside with the Firebird. I may have just ever so slightly brushed a wall on the way out of that corner. The brakes are an issue with this. As the car is a bit on the heavier side, it just doesn't get stopped quite as nicely. You saw early on in this footage me out braking myself. Getting it stopped in the first big braking zone, I had a few issues in a couple of other places as well. I was having issues getting the car slowed down. It's not sort of by a huge amount that the brakes are terrible. It's just you've got to keep braking that little bit earlier than I am perhaps expecting. Definitely the quickest way of getting this car around a track. I've done it with a few vehicles here, and it tends to work best with the four-wheel drive cars. You make sure you really get the car slowed down early, get it turned in, and then you can boot it out of the other side. And because they're four-wheel drive, you're not going to have a problem with sliding the car around. There's going to be plenty of grip, and then you can fire it off down the next straight. Tends to be slow into the corner and fast out. Tends to work best with this vehicle. You've got to make sure though that you do brake early enough to do that. And yeah, it caught me out a few times, but I did thoroughly enjoy driving this car. It was nice not to have to bloody worry about gears so much, going from the Evo to driving this car, and I loved how planted it was. Again, yes, this much power, so on, you will slide the car around if you get overeager with the throttle, but you do have to be being quite stupid to slide the car around. Blocking a curb will do it and so on. But yeah, it was a very well behaved car. On to the times, and it is all very, very close with vehicles today. The Trans Am is the quickest of the lot with a 124.607, putting it into 14th place. The Eagle Talon at 24.755 in 16th, and the Evo 6 that ran today at 24.840. On this screen from 13th to 21st, there is less than half a second difference. That is how close the middle of this table is. It's incredible. And the three cars on here from today are within like 0.3 of a second between the Firebird, the Eagle Talon, and the Evo 6. it's very close in the mid-table. We do have to look a little further down for the Prelude, and perhaps not surprising considering it is only about halfway through A-Class when it comes to PI. I was still mighty impressed with that lap time, though. A 27.9 from a car that is, as I said, considerably underpowered compared to the vehicles that it's running around with, and a little bit on the difficult side to drive, a little bit on the inconsistent side to drive, shall we say. That's a good lap time with some more power in that car, with about 550 horsepower, I reckon, and maybe a bit less weight as well, or however you could do it to A-Class. I reckon that Prelude could actually be pretty damn quick. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.